Okay, in lab this week, lab is going to be about the ABO blood groups. And what you're going to have to do, give a little bit of information about what makes you a certain blood type and some other factors, and then who can donate to who and who can receive from who. That didn't make a lot of sense. Who can a person donate to as far as blood type goes, and then who can that person receive blood from? So in other words, here, if you're blood type A, who can you donate to? A and AB. Who can you receive from? A and O. So let's go over that real quick, and I'll go through every step of this. So on the blood groups, I did cover this briefly in the other lecture video, the last one. Here is a nice little diagram. It's showing O as a universal donor and AB as a universal recipient. The only catch there is the plus and the minus. So there are all kinds of reasons a person would need a blood transfusion. Loss of blood, like it says there, external hemorrhaging, internal hemorrhaging, shock, leukemia, severe anemia, all kinds of reasons. Before you can transfuse blood into someone, you have to figure out what's their blood type. And what you're trying to avoid is agglutination or clumping. Clumped blood is when you have a transfusion reaction. It's when the antibodies have been mixed with the same antigen, and now you have binding of those antigens. And I should have already... I'm sure we'll pull up a picture here. I'm doing this like I was really in class. So there is... Okay, it's a pretty good picture. See, that is some, here's some red cells, some antibodies, and you see they're all attached. Here's another one, another good diagram. So there's agglutination, here's the antibodies, there's the red blood cells. So you're trying to avoid that. And I thought there might be a real, I don't see them, it doesn't look like much. It looks like there's some clumped blood. See, here's normal blood, and that's blood that's clumped together. Blood that's clumped will not flow through small arteries or arterioles. So you're trying to avoid that. There are 4 categories of blood types: A, B, AB, and O. And what determines your blood type are what are called antigens. And then shortly after that, after a person's born, then they develop what are called these antibodies that correspond with each blood type. Here's a nice chart that tells you all that. I'm going to go back to this one out here. So if you're type A blood, that means that you have what is called an A antigen. And in response to the A antigen, right after a person is born, in their plasma, they develop what are called anti-B antibodies. You develop the opposite antibody type to whatever antigen a person has, and they show up spontaneously. There are certain category of antibodies. There's 5 categories of antibodies. Those are real popular lately. And this category has to do with the blood types. A person that's type B blood, that means they have a B antigen, and in their plasma they have the opposite antibody type flowing along with these red cells. These are red blood cells. Type AB, which is the rarest, and it's a genetic lottery. Genes determine your blood type. You get 1 gene or allele from mom, 1 gene or allele from dad. If you got an A gene and an O gene in your genetic lottery, you're going to be type A blood. Or you can get 2 A's. A and B are always dominant over O. If you're type B blood, your genotype is either B, O, representing each gene from mom and dad, or you're BB. If you're type AB, you got an A gene and a B gene, so they are codominant. If you're type O, you got 2 recessive genes, 2 O genes. So a person that's type AB, they have no antibodies because in response to having both antigen types, their immune system will not produce any antibodies. That's the reason these guys are called the universal recipients. There's no antibodies to cause a transfusion reaction. Theoretically, you can put all these antigens into their system, and O has none. There's no antibodies there to cause clumping. A person with type O blood, they lack the A and B antigen. So it's a recessive trait. In response to that, the immune system develops both antibody types. O is called a universal donor. Why is it called that? Because there's no antigens. So even though these antibodies here, and AB doesn't have any, are along with these blood types, there's no antigens there to cause a reaction. So the goal is this A antigen, you can see the way it's shaped, you're trying to avoid, you don't want to mix the same antigen and the same antibody type. These are anti-A antibodies. See how they're shaped? They will go up and bind to those antigens, and then you will have clumping. Type B, see the shape of the antigen, see how these antibody ends are shaped? They'll go up and attach right there, and you'll have clumping. And like I said, type O has both. So that's what you're trying to avoid. The Rh factor has to do with what is called this D antigen, which is not in this picture. 87% of the population has the D antigen. That means they're Rh positive. If you do not have the D antigen, you are negative. And why is that important? Because you have to keep that in mind when doing blood transfusions. So I'm going to go back over here. So here's the Rh factor. 87% of the population in the United States is have the Rh factor, are said to be Rh positive. If you don't have that antigen, then you're Rh negative. So the Rh factor must be considered. Here's why. A person who's Rh positive, and we'll go up here, let's say a person's A positive, and they want to donate blood to somebody who's A negative, meaning they don't have the antigen D. If you put this D antigen into their bloodstream, their immune system has never seen it. The first time you do it, there will be no problems. However, that person will develop what are called anti-Rh antibodies in response to being exposed to the D antigen. So if there was a second transfusion, then there'd be trouble. So here's the golden rule. Just remember, Rh positive can give to positive only. A person who's Rh negative, they can give to both negative and positive. Negative because they don't have the antigen, and it's irrelevant because if somebody's positive, their immune system's already been exposed to it. So they're not going to have a reaction to it. So let's go through here. If a person's type A blood, they have an A antigen, they have the anti-B antibodies. So who can they donate blood to? They can donate to their own blood type, type A, and they can also donate to type AB. AB are the universal recipients. Remember, they have no antibodies. The only thing you have to keep in mind is the plus and the minus. If a person's A positive, they can only donate to A positive and AB positive. A person with type A blood, who can they receive from? Type A, their own blood type, of course, and then type O. And my understanding, you almost always get your same blood type. O is called a universal donor because they have no antigens, so theoretically they can give blood to anyone. There is an attachment to that. If a person is A negative, who can they receive blood from? They can only receive from A negative and not A positive. If a person was A positive, who could they receive blood from? A negative, A positive, O negative, O positive. So to be honest, O negative is true universal donor. If you're type B, who can you donate to? B and AB, same thing. If you're B positive, you can only donate to positive. If you were B negative, you can donate to B negative, B positive, AB negative, and AB positive. Right? Because if you're B negative, you don't have to worry about the plus or the minus. Who can you receive from? B and O. If you're B negative, you can receive from B negative and O negative. If you're B negative, if you're B positive, you can receive from B negative, B positive, O negative, and O positive. Remember, the positive doesn't matter when you're receiving it because they already have it. If you're type AB, you have neither antibodies. Who can you donate to? Well, since they have both antigens, they can only donate to AB. That's it. You can't donate to anybody else because they have both sets of antigens. I hope that makes sense. Because A is going to have the anti-B antigens, B is going to have the anti-A, and type O has both. So they can only donate to their own blood type. And there's a catch there. AB positive, AB positive can only donate to AB positive. If you're AB negative, you can donate to negative and positive. Who can you receive from? Well, they're called universal recipients because they have no antibodies. If you're AB negative, you're limited, remember? Because you can only receive from A negative, B negative, AB negative, and O negative. You can't receive positive blood. If you're AB positive, you can receive theoretically from every single blood type. So AB positive is a true universal recipient. If you're type O, you have neither antigens, but you have both antibodies. So who can you donate to? Like I said, O negative can donate to everybody because they're negative. You don't have to worry about plus or minus. If you're O positive, you can donate to A positive, B positive, AB positive, and O positive. You can't donate to negatives. Who can you receive from? Unfortunately, if you're a universal donor, you can only receive from O. If you're O positive, you can receive from O negative, O positive. If you're O negative, you can only receive blood from O negative. You can't receive from positive. Okay, and just keep that in mind when you're doing this. And I hope this video helps. Sometimes this can be a little confusing, but if you get the letters correct, I'll give you full credit. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's bounce over to our lab sheet. So here is, here's the lab. Little introduction on the ABO blood groups. This is basically what I gave you in the handouts, a little introduction about what the blood groups are. Here's that chart. And the reason the plus and minus are not here because it makes it a super busy chart. And then here's a little bit about the RH factor. So what you're going to do, explain the basis of the ABO blood groups. Basically, just right here, what makes you type A? What makes a person type B? If you're type A blood, that means you have an A antigen. It's determined by genetics. That's all you have to do. If you're type AB, you have both an A and B antigen. If you're type O, you have no antigens. It's a recessive trait. Patient A has A positive blood type. List all the blood types that person can donate to. Now remember, the plus you have to keep in mind. You cannot donate to negative. So who can you donate to? You can donate, if we go back, now I think I'll just bounce over here. If you're A, you can donate to A and AB. If you're positive, you can donate to A positive and AB positive. List all the blood types this person can receive blood from. Well, if you're A, who can you receive from? A and O. But remember, if you're A positive, that's actually a good thing. You can receive from A negative, A positive, O negative, O positive. So you can receive from all four. Just remember this. I'll stay on this page. Plus, RH positive can give to RH positive only. If you're RH negative, you can give to RH negative and RH positive. So do a couple of those. It looks like 1, 2, there's 3 of those. And then explain why a person with type AB is called universal recipients, because they have no antibodies. They can receive blood. There's no problems there because there's no antibodies to cause clumping. Explain why a person with type O is sometimes called a universal donor, because they have no antibodies. Or excuse me, they have no antigens. Sorry about that. They have no antigens. Type O, you can put their blood cells in another person's system. They're not going to have any antigens to clump with the antibodies. And the difference between Rh positive and negative, Rh positive blood has the antigen D, and the Rh negative lacks or does not have the antigen D. That's really the basis of it. So that's what you're doing in lab this week.